When you're driving, have you ever really thought about what's actually happening inside your car? It's not just a machine anymore. It's a rolling, high-speed digital conversation. So today, we're going to pop the hood on that conversation and figure out what our cars are really saying to themselves.
See, your car is absolutely packed, and I mean packed, with dozens, sometimes over 100 of tiny computers. They control everything, from your engine and your brakes, all the way to your power windows and the song playing on the radio. And for you to have a smooth, safe ride, they all have to be in perfect sync, talking to each other constantly.
So that's the big question, right? How do all these separate little brains, often made by totally different companies for totally different jobs, speak the same language and do it fast enough to keep you safe on the highway? Well, let's break it down. To get our heads around this whole thing, we've got to start with the basics. It's like learning a new language. And lucky for us, there are really only 3 key words you need to know to understand the entire architecture. Once you get these, you're pretty much halfway there.
Okay, first up is the node. In the original German source material, you'll see the word Knoten. It means the exact same thing. A node is just one of those individual computers, a single electronic control unit, or ECU. It could be the computer running your engine or the one for your airbags. Just think of a node as the most basic building block of the whole system.
Now, what happens when you take a few of those nodes and hook them up to the same shared communication line? Well, you get a cluster. You can think of this like a small team or a department. For instance, all the nodes that have to do with the engine, fuel injection, emissions, cooling, they might all form a single powertrain cluster. They're all in the same little group, speaking the same lingo.
But wait, what if that engine cluster needs to tell the dashboard cluster what the RPM is? They're in totally different departments. That is where the gateway comes in. A gateway is a special kind of node that's a bit of a translator. It's connected to different clusters, and its whole job is to pass messages between them. It's the bridge that turns all these separate little conversations into one huge car-wide network.
All right, so we've got the basic terms down. Now let's really zoom in and see what's actually inside a single one of these nodes. And to make this really stick, we're going to use a simple analogy for the rest of this explainer. Just imagine the car's entire communication system is one big company.
So, in this analogy, every single node is an employee. Each one has a very specific job. The engine controller, that's your chief engineer. The airbag controller is the head of safety. The radio is, the office DJ. But here's the thing. No matter what their job is, every single one of these employees has the same basic internal parts that let them communicate.
And inside every one of these employees, every node, you'll find 3 essential parts that let it talk to everyone else: the brain, the rule keeper, and the messenger.
Let's map these to the real technical terms. So, the host, that's the brain. It's the main processor doing the thinking, deciding, hey, I need to tell everyone the engine speed is 3,000 RPM. Then you have the protocol controller. That's the rule keeper. It takes that message and packages it perfectly, using the right grammar so everyone else can understand it. And finally, the transceiver. That's the messenger. It's the physical hardware that actually turns that digital message into electrical signals and sends it out on the wire.
Okay, so we get how a single employee, a single node is built. But, employees don't work alone. They get together in departments to get things done. And in our car's world, a department is called a cluster.
So it all kicks off with just one employee, one node, that has something important to say.
But it's usually not a one-person job. Pretty quickly, other employees from that same department need to chime in.
And the way they all talk to each other is by connecting to a shared wire, which is called the bus. And just like that, you've got a department meeting. A cluster is born.
Now, this is the really critical part, that bus. It's like the table in a meeting room. When one node speaks, it puts its message out on the bus, and every other node in that cluster hears it. They might not all care about that specific message, but they all receive it. It's a group conversation.
So we have our departments, our clusters, all having their own little meetings. But a company isn't just a bunch of separate teams working in isolation, right? To get the real work done, they have to talk to each other. So let's zoom out and see how the whole company gets connected.
So in your car, you've got all these different clusters running at the same time. You've got the powertrain cluster handling the engine stuff. You have a comfort cluster managing your seats and AC. And you have the infotainment cluster dealing with your screen and speakers. Each one is its own separate department meeting.
Okay, so here's the perfect real-world puzzle. The speed of your engine is figured out in the powertrain cluster, but you see that speed on your dashboard, which is part of the infotainment cluster. So how does that piece of information get from one department meeting all the way to another?
The answer is our friend, the gateway. In our company analogy, the gateway is the manager. It's a special kind of node that's plugged into 2 or more clusters at the same time. It sits in on the powertrain meeting, hears the engine speed message, and then basically walks over to the infotainment meeting and announces, hey guys, just so you know, the engine's at 3,000 RPM. It's the critical link.
And this brings us to something that can be a little confusing, so let's make it super clear. What's the real difference between a cluster and a network? Well, it's simple. A cluster is just one single department meeting on one shared wire. The network is the entire company. It's all the different clusters connected together by those managers, the gateways.
So let's do a super quick final recap. The individual employees are the nodes. They meet up in departments called clusters, where they all talk over a shared bus. And finally, the managers, or gateways, connect all those departments together to form the whole company, the network. Simple as that.
You know, this whole structure has worked incredibly well for decades. But as we look ahead to the future of self-driving cars and the insane amounts of data they'll need to process, you have to start wondering, how is this internal conversation going to have to change to keep up? The answer probably involves brand new stuff like automotive Ethernet, but that's a story for another day.